It's coming, right?
My questions for Ms. Wilkinson. First of all, I really appreciate this series. I've enjoyed it tremendously. Your book is about migration of minorities to the north. In a state where Jim Crow, we feel, has been eliminated, but Jim Crow Jr. is alive and well. We're finding people migrating back to the South. You know, we have another congressional district in South Carolina because of the increase in population, but you have a state where you have employment at will, where businesses can keep people down, fire you at will for no reason or any reason. People in leadership positions pass laws like the voter ID law, which we know is going to suppress minority votes. Why do you think minorities are migrating back to states in the South with those kinds of conditions?
They read the book, it's all.
I think it's very complex. In some ways, they are mirroring the behavior of many Americans who have discovered that life can be wonderful in the South. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. It's a beautiful part of the United States. I myself was raised in Washington, D.C., which is a border state, you might say, border place, you might say, and I now live primarily in Atlanta. When I first arrived, it was January, and I said, wow, this is so beautiful. There are roses in January. And someone told me that they were camellias, so now so that because of the changes that occurred during the Civil Rights era, which had been propelled by this great mass movement of people to the North from the South, which put pressure on the North to pay attention to what was happening in the South, put pressure on the South ultimately to examine itself, and so this great migration actually helped propel the civil rights gains that we now hold as important change in American history. But this made the South a more welcoming place for people of all backgrounds, not just African Americans, meaning there are many Northerners who came to the South who might not have, I've met many people in the tours that I might not have moved to North Carolina or to Georgia or to South Carolina had it been the same as it was in the 1940s. They just simply said it. I mean, there may be many people in the audience. How many of the audience feel that way? They experienced that. And so this has become a place for many, many people that's opened up partly because of the sacrifices of the people of the Great Migration who left the only place that they were known ultimately to stake out a place someplace else, and left a message for the country and ultimately the world what was going on here. Their children and their grandchildren are also finding that life can often be untenable in these big, forbidding cities. It just so happened that the parents in this Great Migration went to the most expensive, often, most crowded and dirtiest cities in the country. And they're finding those places to be not as hospitable as they might have been for the parents who felt they had no other choice. And they're coming back. They are in some ways coming to a place to discover their ancestral roots because they really didn't know them to begin with. They were raised as Southerners, you should be aware of. They were raised as Southerners. I've been described as a Southerner once removed, and I love that. We were raised with the food, the collard greens and the cornbread. Jiffy was always in there. I mean, I know there are people who don't like Jiffy cornbread, but don't pretend you haven't had it. And so we grew up with the music and the language and the food, but we did not know what was the place that had generated all that we had been growing up with. And so it's a rediscovery for people as well. On top of that, I think that I'd like to make this one correction to the language that's used to describe this. It's often called the reverse migration. I take issue with that term. I do not consider it to be a reverse migration. I prefer the term return migration because if you think of reverse, when you're driving a car and you put it in reverse, you're going backward. And I don't believe that any migration in general, but particularly this one, would be viewed as something that you're going backward to.
A quick word of thanks to President Smolla and Furman University, to the Raleigh Institute and its staff, to the Olli program at Furman, to all of you who have come faithfully week in and week out and participated with great enthusiasm, to the participants tonight And yes, sir.
Hey, could I just, as you're saying good night, my partner Dick Riley, who's my law partner, called me and said, I can't believe this is going on and I can't be there. And he said, would you please explain to people that tonight is Dick Riley night at the Drive, at the Greenwood Drive. And he said, look, I gotta go to the ball game. So he's at the ball game, AV, or he would be here in honor of the Riley Institute. He loves Furman University. He bleeds purple. And the other thing I would just say to you all is when Isabel and I pulled out of the Westin Hotel downtown, we found out Michelle Bachman is in town, and y'all are here.